Support for this program is provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and from viewers like you.
Hello and welcome to Louisiana Public Square. I'm Beth Courtney, president of LPB. Joining me for our discussion tonight on cybersecurity is LPB reporter and news anchor Natasha Williams. Well, Natasha, this is a complicated and difficult subject. We're glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here, Beth. Well, if you've been following the Democratic primaries, the Iowa caucus illustrates how relying on technology can be just as much a negative as a positive. A new app meant to streamline the reporting of results ended up doing just the opposite. A glitch in the system prevented precincts from reporting vote counts and disrupted campaigns.
Well, indeed. What happened in Iowa, though, was accidental. In 2016, bad actors from Russia intentionally sent emails attached with viruses to the Democratic National Committee. With one wrong click, over 19,000 emails were accessed and soon shared with the public, fueling tensions among candidates and forcing the DNC chair to resign. But cyber attacks don't just occur every 4 years. Globally, millions of attempted computer breaches happen every day. So how secure is Louisiana's virtual infrastructure? And how can the state, businesses, and individuals protect their online data? Tonight, we explore the ways we can all avoid being hacked. As the summer of 2019 was coming to a close, overseas computer hackers declared war on Louisiana's public schools.
5 weeks prior to school starting, there was an attack on a Louisiana school district every Sunday night at 2 a.m.
Dustin Glover is Louisiana's Chief Information Security Officer. He says the attacks were coordinated and targeted.
We saw multiple organizations get compromised through email campaigns that were geographically super close to one another. That was the first time that we had ever seen anything like that.
The attacks triggered an emergency declaration from Governor John Bel Edwards and the first-time activation of the state's Incident Command Plan for cyber attacks, called Emergency Support Function, or ESF-17.
The groups of agencies involved in ESF-17 are Division of Administration, Office of Technology Services, Louisiana National Guard, Louisiana State Police, Cyber Crimes Unit, and GOSEP.
The group discovered that 5 school districts were infected with ransomware, a computer virus that holds data captive for money. Computer users with administrative privileges had clicked on infected links, introducing ransomware throughout each district.
I put accessing the internet and email with admin credentials, the same, it's basically the digital equivalent of drinking and driving. It's irresponsible, and you could cause harm to yourself and others.
Data was ultimately restored in time for the start of school, and no money was paid. The response also prevented additional attacks on 7 other school districts, but 3.5 months later, hackers tried to breach the state's primary network.
We had an event in mid-November for the state that attacked the state's core primary network data centers that appeared to the public as if many agencies were attacked. They were just impacted by the services that were interrupted during that attack and response process.
The attackers got in through a third-party account and affected 10% of Louisiana's 5,000 network servers. But the attempt to steal employees' login credentials was unsuccessful.
We were able to stop it, prevent it, walk it back down, remediate it, and then make sure that we're operating at the highest level of monitoring we can moving forward.
Within the last 3 months, hackers shut down government computers in New Orleans, the sheriff's office in Rapides Parish, and St. Landry Parish schools. According to a study by the cybersecurity firm Emisoft, ransomware attacks in 2019 affected at least 966 government agencies, educational bodies, and healthcare providers.
It's our lackadaisical attitude that we've taken for a decade or more, and how we design and how we implement our networks and how we take care of our networks.
Devin King heads the Louisiana State Police Cybercrimes Division. He says network security depends on having the right administrative support, technology, and processes in place. Without proper training, the person behind the keyboard becomes the weakest link.
80 to 85% of all database breaches, of all cyber intrusions that we've investigated, that the FBI has investigated over the past 5 years, have originated from users being taken advantage of. You have to train people to be paranoid when it comes to their inbox, because the inbox is the avenue for all of those crimes to come in through. Phishing, a lot of ransomware attacks are coming in through that email.
That applies to home computers as well. King says devices like remote security cameras and smart light bulbs introduce additional vulnerabilities.
Oftentimes, as we do investigations, we'll see that home devices were leveraged first because there is no security there. Everything's just wide open, plugged in for just availability, and they're bringing that nastiness, that infection, back into the work, and then all of a sudden you have a massive issue.
Warding off those issues falls on cybersecurity experts. The demand for this profession is growing 12 times faster than the current U.S. job market. Louisiana has been trying to get ahead of that curve. In 2015, the state created a high school graduation pathway for cyber engineering. In Bossier City, the National Cyber Innovation Center is training teachers and students in information technology. Students at Southern University's 3 campuses can now receive 19 IT certifications, and the college will soon offer internships with the Cybersecurity Center outside of D.C. And since 2013, Louisiana Tech has been offering the nation's first 4-year degree in cyber engineering.
If you just look up and down the I-20 corridor, companies like IBM, CenturyLink, GDIT, all of these companies are here primarily because they're trying to attract our students and to get them to be in their workforce.
Miguel Gates is chair of Louisiana Tech's cyber engineering program. Last year, the school received $3.5 million from the National Science Foundation to help recruit more cybersecurity majors.
As a cyber engineer, students are prepared to go into the workforce looking at all sides of the equation. So they can look at the offensive side, the defensive side, the hardware side, the software side. We just cover all our bases here.
In October, Governor Edwards announced plans to establish the Louisiana Cyber Coordination Center at the Water Campus in Baton Rouge. The center will promote a safer cyber community in Louisiana through information sharing, training, and partnerships. In the meantime, Glover's office will continue to monitor incoming threats to the state.
How vulnerable is the state of Louisiana? As vulnerable as any other state or entity. How determined are we to make sure that we protect our information and the public services that we provide to the public? Extremely determined.
Well, another group of determined folks is our studio audience. It includes cybersecurity representatives from business, higher education, and the National Guard. We also have high school members of the Legislative Youth Advisory Council from Denham Springs and Youngsville. Welcome, everyone. In 2017, the Pew Center conducted a survey that included questions that tested America's knowledge about cybersecurity issues and terms. Among its findings, 75% of Americans correctly identified the strongest password choice, which contains letters, numbers, symbols, and a combination of upper and lowercase letters. Nearly the same percentage, 73%, were aware that even if public Wi-Fi networks are password protected, it doesn't necessarily mean it's safe to use for online banking, for example. But only 33% of respondents were aware that the letter S in HTTPS means traffic on that site is encrypted. And only 13% of those surveyed were aware that you can reduce your risk of using public Wi-Fi connections by using a virtual private network or VPN. So let's start with our own survey. Tell me your name, who you represent, and the challenges online security that you encounter. Let's start right over here. Camilla?
We work with over 8,000 students and over 2,000 faculty and staff, and also additional guests that also need access to our network. One of the things that we encounter a lot is student and faculty and staff phishing and password issues. So we try to have different security campaigns and email awareness, and we also provide summits. But we still need to find additional ways to help our end users to understand the importance of security as far as their online resources.
And so that's an issue you have at Southern University where you work?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's come over here. How about we start with Justin?
My name is Justin Lee. I'm currently full-time for the Louisiana Army National Guard, part of the 178th Cyber Protection Team. Being in the military, I guess our biggest concern is having regular end-day soldiers who have your basic civilian job, communicating with them, whether it be a sensitive nature or any kind of movement we may have that is military pertained. So trying to keep that data safe when it's going back and forth is usually probably our biggest day-to-day battle.
Okay. How about you, Ben?
As a real estate attorney, we have escrow accounts that hold closing proceeds from the sale of properties and homes and businesses. As you can assume, there's quite an amount of money that may be in our escrow accounts on any given day. And we are actually one of the top targets in the country for hacking because of the amount of monies that are in these accounts. And every day, the criminals are getting smarter and more clever, and it's so much harder to detect an email that's coming in. It used to be easier to detect, and so we're only as strong as the strongest person in the office that's going to be able to look out for it and detect it. And we have to be vigilant 100% of the time.
So you have someone constantly working on that?
Well, we're all trying to not be click happy and really be just have to question everything that comes in. And I've known people in the industry that have been hacked and have lost sizable amounts of money. And the question that I have that I would like the panel to just be able to discuss is, what offensive measures can be taken. Certainly, we're working defensively for the line of attack, but what offensive measures can be taken to try to go after these hackers?
And we'll definitely have you answer that. Teresa, tell me about some of the cybersecurity issues you might have encountered.
Well, my name is Teresa Jones. I'm with Evolve IQ. We specialize in cybersecurity consulting. So on a day-to-day basis, I work with a lot of HIPAA compliance issues, and a lot of medical practices don't understand the need for cybersecurity, security awareness training for the employees so they can become compliant. So the end user training is really, really the difficult part of getting everyone to understand that you not only need training, but you also need like cyber liability insurance, the proper IT department, things of that nature. And
you need upgrades from time to time, right?
On a consistent basis, and patches, and making sure you're on Windows 10 Pro, things of that nature that nobody wants to pay for.
Okay, thank you. Pat, do you have a comment?
I'm with Cajun Clickers Computer Club, and we deal a lot with our senior citizens, and we just try to find ways to help them not be hacked.
Okay. How about we come back over here? How about you, Roberto?
I'm Roberto Egger. I'm also in the Army National Guard as a cyber operations officer. My civilian job is with Blue Cross Blue Shield. I manage a security team there. And we are the largest healthcare provider in the state. And I think we have a responsibility to protect a large portion of Louisiana's population, their private health information. And I don't know that we have particular challenges that we haven't overcome. There's always new attacks and new vectors coming out. So it's an ever-evolving game to really position ourselves to defend our network. But we're pretty committed to doing that, both on my civilian job and my National Guard obligations as well.
Okay. How about you, Russ? Have you had some issues you've had to encounter with hacking, cybersecurity issues?
Yes. My name is Russ Williams. I'm the head of the IT department at Cajun Clickers Computer Club. And every week we do a repairs committee, and I have a few people on my team, and we go through and debug people's computers, remove viruses, remove Trojans, remove spyware, that sort of stuff. The biggest one we've had was $499. A gentleman got hacked, and he paid $499 to take off the program that they put on, and then I had to go back in and take it off again. Yeah, so
okay.
And this is the stuff that we're trying to prevent.
Important stuff. Important stuff. Terrence, how about you?
My name is Terrence Syracuse. I work at Southern University, Baton Rouge. And one of the major concerns that we have is just trying to make sure that our users are educated. How do we go about educating them or getting them better educated for against cybersecurity, against cybercrime and being hacked?
Okay. How about you, Sophie?
I'm a member of the Louisiana Legislative Youth Advisory Council, and from this legislative stance, it kind of is really important to think in terms of elections and in terms of information that we have in the government and keeping that information safe.
Okay. How about we start with Inez over there?
Hi, I'm Inez Cancian, and I'm with Cajun Clickers Club.
Yes.
And I usually like to teach they're usually elderly clients that come in and want to just catch up. They might want to go shopping on the internet, or they're kind of clueless. It's for an older person, it's kind of new sometimes if they hadn't had a lot of training. So anyway, I warn them about don't click anywhere, don't answer the calls, don't just a lot of things to help them not get hacked.
Okay. Henry?
Hi, I'm Henry Overton. I'm president of Turnkey Solutions. We're a managed security services provider, and we take care of clients across industries, across the United States. And one of the greatest concerns that we fight day to day is educating our clients about how to differentiate between what is a real need versus what is just something that we're trying to sell them or somebody else is trying to sell them, and also how to differentiate in the marketplace between good options and not good options. We have great friends in the industry that are largely competitors that if we see a client with them, we're happy, and we see other IT companies that are we know are not implementing best practices, and they're just really taking the client's money and hoping they don't get hacked. So differentiating that and educating our business clients, the end users, all the way across the board on the need for intelligently informed
So you can
decisions.
definitely buy some things you don't need, and they're not even going to protect you.
All day long.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Andrea?
Hi, I'm Andrea Bryant. I'm with Checkpoint Software. We're a global cybersecurity provider. For me locally, my biggest challenge is education, as this market is more of an SMB market. So it's a challenge for the SMB customer to find the right resources, find the right MSP to work with, as well as what products do I need to buy or what don't I need. It's a lot of times it's very overwhelming for them to make those decisions. So it's really for us to educate them on the resources that are available to them, as well as the other areas. Everybody goes, oh, I have a firewall. Well, there's so many other ways now
to get them.
That people are being attacked. You need to look at, do you have IoT devices? Are your access and your email on your mobile device? So we really need to educate the users on all the different vectors of attack.
Okay. Good discussion so far. That's all the time we have for this portion of our show. When we return, we'll be joined by our panel of experts to further discuss cybersecurity. So make sure you stay with us. Welcome back to Louisiana Public Square. Tonight we're examining how to protect your data in the virtual world. Joining us now is our panel. Neil Underwood is the Deputy Chief Information Officer for the Division of Administration's Office of Technology Services. Mr. Underwood has more than 25 years of experience in the information technology field. Craig Spahn is Executive Director of the Cyber Innovation Center of Bossier City. The facility is a public-private initiative tasked with creating a knowledge-based workforce for the region. Mr. Spahn chairs Louisiana's Cyber Security Commission, which helps identify and mitigate the state's cyber risk. Ronald Andrews is a security engineer for the Checkpoint Software Technologies Company, a multinational supplier of software and hardware products that provide network, cloud, mobile, and data security. Mr. Andrews works in Checkpoint's Tennessee office, supporting strategic accounts. Major Alan Dunn is the office manager for Stevenson Technology Corporation, or STC. STC is a LSU nonprofit organization providing cybersecurity solutions to the Departments of Defense, Homeland Security, and federal markets. A part-time guardsman, Major Dunn also commands the U.S. Army Cyber Protection Team 179. Before we go to our audience to ask questions, I'd like first for each of you, from your perspective, what is the greatest threat to Louisiana's cybersecurity? We'll start on the end.
So, of course, our purview is the operations of state government. So the biggest threat from our point of view is the impact of cybersecurity events on the provision of services to the citizens. And of course, we have such a wide range of services, from public safety to health care to citizen services for supports. So it is incumbent upon us to make sure that those services continue uninterrupted.
Major Dunn?
I think the biggest threat we face now is people, and how easy accessible that IT is and everything. Everybody carries around a smartphone, everybody has smart devices in their homes, but they're not properly secured. And so an easy click on an email, like was mentioned earlier, it can infect multiple systems and can jump from network to network, if you will, and affect your people in your email box as well.
Mr. Spahn?
I think it's just a general awareness. People should have a higher sense of awareness about cyber hygiene. This is very simple to prevent. In most cases, 80 or 90% of what we deal with from a difficulty standpoint in the cyber realm is preventable if we just had a heightened sense of awareness about what we're using.
Mr. Andrews?
What we're seeing from the industry is the targeted attacks, the targeted ransomware attacks against corporations, governments, and that goes back to the social engineering of users and getting users aware of what they're clicking on and what they're seeing in their email and what sites they're taking.
Okay, and we have some questions that are coming from our audience out here. Let's start with you, Anna Kate.
Hi, Anna Kate Luke. I'm with the Louisiana Legislative Youth Advisory Council. So in November of 2019, Vernon Parish official state computers were successfully and strategically hacked. And although the computers were hacked 4 months before a major election was happening, the hacking was only detected 6 days before before the election. And so with the major presidential election coming up in November of 2020, what precautions are being taken to ensure that hacking will not interfere with results of the elections?
I'll try to field some of that. The individual states' Secretary of State are responsible for those election results, and different states address election security in different manners because of the way they distribute the voting. But within our state, there's a tremendous amount of work being done currently to prepare ourselves for dealing with antiquated machines. There's some lease initiatives that are underway to get new equipment in place that is more robust and more sound in advance of our purchase of some new equipment. But all secretaries of state are dealing with this issue similarly but different across the nation.
Okay, and Jerry, you have a question?
Yes, I'm Jerry Stark, and I'm with the Cajun Clickers Computer Club. Given the recent publicity of hacking of the state systems, what specific procedures have been implemented by state agencies, and what procedures could even local businesses take? So much of our affairs now are done online. What could be done to ensure the protection of our data and to protect systems?
Kind of a twofold answer there. Of course, a lot of our citizens are now doing business electronically with us as state agencies. And we're moving some of the protections and the policies that we have internal for our own staff to the citizen portals on the front end. Sure, you're familiar with multi-factor authentication. What that means is if you've ever reset your password with Apple or with a banking app, you can't just reset it without them sending you a code to a known address that you have. That's multi-factor authentication. It's somewhere where you are, a password you know, and then something that you have, in that case a cell phone, to receive that code and then enter it in. We're starting to extend similar devices like that out to the citizen portals, to where we're just not accepting a password and you don't just go log in to some random place. We're going to have a citizen portal that's branded that you know this is a state government agency, and we're going to extend those types of login securities to your account to make sure that it's protected from your side. Internally, we're constantly evolving our protections. And nothing is ever 100%, even if I get to 99.9999, what happens to that one fraction of a percent that's left? So we stage our protections to prevention, preventing people from accessing our system, to protection. If they get in our system, we encrypt your data to once they get to it, they can do nothing with it, to mitigation. In a case of ransomware, if they prevent us from getting to our data, we can restore and recover that because we have multiple copies in safe places where we can ensure data integrity.
The adversary is always out there looking and trying to see what's the low-hanging fruit, what's easy to attack. And as I mentioned earlier with passwords and protecting those passwords, and Dustin mentioned in the intro, was how administrative privileges being part of a regular user's duties gives an attacker a way into everything. So if they're able to compromise those user credentials, they will be able to get into the server backbones, or potentially get into server backbones if you don't have them segregated or separated in a certain way.
Okay. Jason, do you have a question?
My name is Jason Allen. I'm with the Louisiana Army National Guard's 178th Cyber Protection Team. My question is, what are some of the lessons learned from the recent cyber attacks on the state, and how is the state using those lessons learned to prepare for future cyber attacks?
So
Anyone?
we actually had an opportunity, unfortunately, to learn a lot about our own systems in this recent attack. Some of the lessons that we learned internally were sometimes your access is not from your network, but from a trusted partner network. So we have to extend and do a better job of vetting the security controls with our trusted partners that we do business with to make sure that they're protecting their systems the same way we are. The second thing that we learned is, of course, every user login ID has certain permissions given to them. We have to be very diligent with the hygiene of those user IDs to make sure they only have the permissions they need to do their job, and not allow any user IDs with global permissions that can access multiple areas of your system, because that's a high risk profile. And then the third thing we need to do a better job of and make a big investment in is system resiliency. If that one person does get in and freezes all your data and freezes all your systems, it's okay if I have the resiliency to bring those systems back up within 24 hours. So we need to invest in that as well as prevention and mitigation.
Does the state have a policy not to pay ransomware to get back access to computers?
It is the administration's policy that we do not pay ransom. We do have cyber insurance protection like lots of private sector businesses do, but as part of our policy with them, we extend that to we will not pay a ransom, because in the end, that just encourages the bad actors to come back over and over again.
Okay, what about from a business perspective? We know that some companies actually do pay the ransomware because they feel like if they don't, they'll lose customers.
Yes, and what we're seeing from our industry is that they don't have the backups and they can't be down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their perfect example is Georgia School District. They decided to pay the ransom because they couldn't get their system back up in time based on their backups, because their backups were attacked and encrypted also. So they couldn't get their data back up even from backup. So they had to pay the ransom. Sometimes it works, sometimes they don't get anything back. Right? Sometimes they take the ransomware and don't give them the encryption keys to get their data back, and they still lose everything.
So do you recommend that you don't pay the ransomware? I mean, what do you do in a situation like that? What if it's a hospital and they have information that's basically stopping patients from getting necessary medicines or something like that?
So we kind of talk customers into thinking about their needs. So like a hospital, if they can't do anything else, if they can't bring in more PCs to get their network back up, then they have to look at that option, right? For them, all the options on the table, because it's truly a life and death situation, right? If they can't get those medical machines back up to do anything, you know, because now everything in the hospital is on the network and it's IT. So you have to be able to secure and segment that data. So from our point of view, it is truly a case-by-case basis. Yep.
Okay. Teresa.
With all of the different ransomware issues with the state and local, have you seen like an increase in cybersecurity professionals being hired to work in those departments? Because I've heard so many people say about the IT department, but where's the cybersecurity departments?
That is definitely a challenge that we have, is finding qualified professionals in this field because they're in such high demand. In the state cybersecurity practice, we're always looking for additional professionals to bring in and join our team. But this definitely raised awareness in the local government and the smaller school districts arena that they didn't have these professionals and didn't identify the need for them. And I think through our education and our engagement in the more recent events, they now understand the need, and they will be seeking either to bring in internal staff within their IT departments dedicated to cybersecurity, or to work and engage contractors to provide those types of services for them.
We're working specifically to make children and their parents and non-traditional students aware of what these career paths look like, what's needed, because you don't have to have a 2-year or 4-year degree. You need industry-based certifications to enter this career field. And if you can enter this career field, a lot of the employers will provide tuition assistance to continue your education and continue to help you gain better skills, because they're so desperately in need of that kind of talent. And those jobs are extremely good paying jobs, and people have got good career paths with them, a lot of upward mobility. One of the major things that we focus on at the Cyber Innovation Center is workforce. That's we have what is the standard in cyber education in K-12, and we work very closely with our friends in higher education to build things like the first cyber engineering degree in the country at Louisiana Tech University, and that was done in conjunction with Air Force Research Labs.
Okay. How about another question? How about you, Andrea?
Well, my question actually was on the cybersecurity professionals and how we were going to continue to grow. It is definitely an issue with the majority of my customers that they don't have the resources, and I think it's great that we are educating the people that are in school, but the next issue is how are we going to keep them here?
Yeah. From our perspective, we're working very hard to create the economic demand signal from industry. So across the state, you've seen multiple economic incentive packages put together to recruit those kinds of jobs. In Bossier City, we recruited what was at the time Computer Science Corporation with a $116 million incentive package for 800 jobs. That opportunity was supposed to fill those 800 jobs within a 5-year ramp-up period. They had reached that goal at 4 years, and they're now at 1,100 with a demand for another 200 and looking at expanding the facility right now. We are creating a supply of much needed talent, and our goal is to see that talent stay in the state. And given the nature of this work, a lot of these graduates have the ability to dictate where they're going to work. And so we're hopeful that as we continue to produce these, we're also going to be able to kind of attract these businesses that are in such desperate need of this kind of talent.
What I found interesting was down at Louisiana Tech, they had students actually working for customers in-house on the campus, so getting on-the-job training with the promise possibly of getting one of those high-paying jobs immediately upon graduation.
They're working in, it's beyond internships. They're getting paid to work for software
Southwest
companies
Airlines,
that have a multitude of airlines, a multitude of customers that are using undergraduate and graduate student talent to staff positions because they're in such need. And most of those students, after they finish those programs, go to work for the employer that they were servicing as a contractor in that internship, quasi-internship role.
Co-op or something like that.
Right.
And they're right on campus, literally walking across campus to this. High-paying job.
We've run out of space, and we're building another facility for that right now on the Louisiana Tech campus. The Tech Point 1 building, I think, holds 400 of those students right now, and we're having to expand to Tech Point 2 in order to keep up with the demand for that talent.
And that's good news.
That's great news.
Okay, another question. How about you, sir?
You're hearing about VPNs nowadays, and the pros and cons of using a VPN to combat the hacking problem, if anybody wants to.
So a good pro for VPN is privacy for your data going out, because you don't have to too much worry about any browser hacks or infections in your browser, because it's a secure tunnel to the VPN provider.
It's a virtual
private
network.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
The con is so many VPN services being offered that you have to really research which one you're going to use. Mm-hmm. There's been several of them this last year that was hacked, and all of their credentials were stolen for all of their customers. So if you're going to use a VPN solution, I would say research out, look at which ones are, because some of them are based in Russia. So you're using a VPN tunnel to a company, to a place that you could possibly get your data stolen.
Are they expensive?
No, they're relatively cheap. I've seen them down to $4.95 a month to all the way up to $19 a month. So they're not very expensive. Always remember it's one PC per use. So it's a few smaller in home routers that offer that service also. I think Netgear also offers that service if you're looking at something like that. But I always say research those. Don't look at the cheapest one out there if you do decide to use a VPN.
Okay. Ben, I'm sorry.
Yes, my name is Ben Luke, and I'm an attorney and also a past president and board member of the Louisiana Independent Land Title Agent Association. And we are one of the major industries where hacking is occurring because of the escrow accounts that we have for closing proceeds of sales of properties. And we're doing everything that we can defensively to educate all of our staff. I mean, every one of our staff members has to be vigilant, looking out and being very skeptical of the emails that we get. We're trying to do our part. And everybody's talking about defensively what we need to do. My question is, offensively, what is being done, if anything, to try to go after these hackers, and what type of success rate, if anything, has occurred?
I know we've seen recently in the news you had some Chinese nationals get indicted for computer fraud or hacking devices, and also some Russian actors. Will we ever get those guys? Probably not, because they're over in China and there's no extradition there. So, I mean, we walk through the defense and we try to build the best defense we have against these guys, but offensively, it's the FBI and the law enforcement agencies that have to go after these guys outside the country and trying to get them to stop. It's hard to bring them back into the country to prosecute those guys to make them stop. We're always going to have that chance that somebody's going to get in, but you have to do to use the analogy, best defense is a good offense, or best offense is a good defense, right? And it's to go offensively, you start blurring lines on your own self, violating some laws in the Computer Fraud and Defense Act and stuff like that from there. So.
And you shut them down and they open back up like
Correct.
somewhere immediately.
Somewhere else, yeah, exactly.
Does National Guard have any issues with things like that, and how do you handle it?
With
the hacking situation, yeah.
Unfortunately, not yet. We haven't seen anything, but that's not saying that there's things out there that could be coming in their networks, just like anywhere else.
Because it seems like it would be a target being anything military
Correct.
related to the U.S. Terrence?
I guess my question is, my name is Terrence Syracuse. I work with Southern University. How do we go about better educating our users and the public at large about cybersecurity? I've noticed that a lot of it's tax season. A lot of people are doing their taxes, filing taxes and stuff, and they're doing this over the internet now, where they'll email W-2 forms and tax information over a network, and that's never a good thing. So how do we go about educating our users to not be so trusting about the internet?
Well, what we've seen a lot of people do is user awareness training, right? They will send you a phishing email from their internal training tool, and then they'll go back and say, "Hey, I saw you click this link. I saw you. Did you know that this was a phishing email? That this wasn't legitimate?" And they'll say, "No, I did not." And you'll tell them you gave your credentials, and guess what? Those same credentials, the same credentials you use for your bank, same credentials you use for Facebook. So you've basically exposed yourself completely, and then people will start to understand. That's what we see a lot of customers are doing to help with mitigating that risk.
And then to piggyback on that, you never want to reuse your passwords on anything you do, right? So you want to have a separate password for everything. Well, now we're saying, how can I remember 50 different passwords for different accounts? Well, there's password managers out there, LastPass, Password Keeper, and where you remember one password and all those passwords are stored in that Password Keeper. So where you don't have, when you click on it, you don't have to remember, you remember that one password for the Password Keeper, but you have a different password for each one of your accounts, and that helps.
I've seen it to the point where the consequences are getting pretty severe. When employees are accepting that clickbait and they're exposing the companies to these things on a repetitive basis, they're being let go by their employer because they're exposing their company and all that their company does through their lack of concern for what it is that they're willing to click on repeatedly. And so I've seen it to the point where employees are losing their jobs over this stuff.
Sophie, do you have a question?
I'm Sophie Faircloth. I'm with the Louisiana Legislative Youth Advisory Council. And I'm kind of curious how you guys feel in terms of, obviously there's going to be an increase in public awareness of cybersecurity as we continue to create new programs, and people are going to start becoming concerned about the strength of our cybersecurity. And I'm curious how you guys feel we could combat that in terms of the Louisiana legislature and in terms of government agencies to kind of lessen that concern or prohibit that concern.
Okay.
Last year we put 6 new laws on the state's books that are at the highest level of the nation's standards for cyber trespass. So we're trying to catch up to an event that wasn't seen, wasn't planned for. We've become so dependent and are willing to give up our privacy in exchange for convenience to the point where folks are being able to exploit that willingness to give up privacy. What we've been able to do in the last legislative session was to create 6 laws that are around protecting individuals, businesses, and government agencies. So if we could go get these people, at least we've got a law on the books now that they have violated and we can go prosecute them with. And most states don't have that, and we've only just adopted it. I think there are 3, possibly 6 other states in the nation that have those laws. So it's a responsive issue. You're always trying to keep up with what these guys are capable of doing to us.
What about this new kind of hacking of Alexa and doorbell ring cameras and lights that are like automated through Alexa?
I can speak to that. So there's companies out there that are doing IoT devices, Internet of Things devices, where they're not looking at security. They're looking for providing a service to you right away. I don't know at what point we became so lazy we can't flip a light switch, right? We got to tell Alexa to do it for us. And it's interesting to see that they're not looking for security on this, because those things talk amongst each other and you don't realize they're communicating with one another in your home. If you have smart light bulbs, smart refrigerators, smart water faucets, smart cars now, you think of the Teslas and everything, your whole security system, your Ring security system. And there's people out there just selling ways to get into those devices. The Ring hack, came out, there was a forum kind of walked people through exactly how to do these things. And some of it's kids that are playing around, want to play jokes on their friends, but I mean, to me, it's creepy people that are in there spying on, and sick individuals, to be honest with you. And Craig mentioned this earlier, we're trumping convenience for security. We're not looking out for how to secure these things. And the general user really don't understand how to secure these devices once they get them in their home. Yes, you can put a firewall up, you can put it, but still those things communicate. You don't know where those things are communicating. You don't know what inside those firmware. A lot of them have little small computers in there that may be beaconing back somewhere else, and you don't even realize it. Or clicking on ads and generating ads, or generating ad revenue for a company. Could be in China, could be in Russia, and you get on Amazon and you buy the best-selling baby monitor that's Wi-Fi connected, and it might be transmitting all your information back to China, and you don't realize it. It's Amazon's bestseller or something along those lines. So.
What about online banking? Should we online bank? You know, are our cell phones at risk? I mean, it seems like we have to protect everything that we use every day.
Yes and yes.
Yes.
But I think we can't go back from online banking. We always use, my first thing is back to multi-factor. If it's important to you, make sure you use a multi-factor authentication for everything you're logging in, and not sharing credentials. Like you back to the Ring, they was using their Facebook, they got their Facebook credentials, next thing you know they had their Ring cameras.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do credential sharing anymore, especially with your important sites. If you are, you're setting yourself up for that, for that one credential to be stolen, and you can get all your data. And it can be no fault of your own. There's a lot of sites that were hacked and their data, all those users' data was taken, no fault of their own. They probably had strong passwords. But once they have it, if you were sharing, now everything you have is open. And there's people that just sit there and try these credentials everywhere.
And with multi-factor authentication, you want to implement that immediately when you start something up, because if your credentials are compromised and you enable multi-factor authentication after the fact, and your credentials are compromised, you go try to enable after the fact. Well, they already have a way to get that code.
What about stronger passwords? Should it be longer and lengthier? Should I accept that awful password they always offer me that I could never remember unless I use some type of manager?
I don't think necessarily it goes into symbols anymore for strength. Length is more. Think of your favorite song verse or something like that, and make that your password. It could be 52 characters long or something like that. That's a lot harder to crack than a 10-character password from that piece of it.
And one of the biggest things you want to look at is you don't want to make your security mechanisms so difficult that user behavior tries to go around it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could make a policy that a password has to be 80 characters in length. What is that going to make our users do? Write it down on a notepad and stick it beside their keyboard because they're not going to memorize that. Well, we've just defeated the purpose. The weakest link in any security system is human behavior. They're always going to naturally go to the path of least resistance, and if you put too much of a barrier between a user, in my case, and their ability to do their job, which from their perspective is why they're going to try and go around your security to make their job easier. It's understandable. So you always have to balance that risk between productivity and impact on user behavior and security of a system.
Okay, try to get a couple more questions in. Justin?
Oh, yes. Actually, y'all touched on my topic I had, which was the Internet of Things. With that being said, with password hashing, salting, rainbow tables, etc., short of the actual end user, what do you think the next best step is, short of education, to actually trying to secure our infrastructure?
I think you need tools that fit into how your organization is structured and how your organization do business. There's software tools, or all of us security firms have tools that can protect credentials through identity protection. We can protect password reuse. We can do have these tools out there, but you need the people to institute them, and you need the willingness to make sure they are instituted fully. A lot of us will get them. A lot of things we see is they get them started, they get them 3/4 of the way there, call it a success and move on, and don't look at it again. Everything you have has to stay up to date. Everything, has to be, all your vulnerabilities has to be fixed in a timely fashion. So as you buy these tools, as you institute these tools, you have to make sure you have people using these tools and making sure they are fully functioning and working and doing their jobs and being monitored.
Cameron?
Camila Stroy. I work at Southern University Baton Rouge campus. Of course, a lot of things you talked about we deal with in higher education, definitely with passwords and banking and definitely phishing and clickbait come through emails. And we try to implement a lot of tools, as you mentioned, to kind of safeguard our infrastructure from our own end users internally. What do you think also, if you know anything about in higher education, what else can we do? Because we often have times try to educate our students and our staff even more. What are the things that we could possibly do to also get our users to do a better job at securing themselves?
I can take an initial crack at that, and it's something that we're looking at. Make it real for them, even if it's a simulation or a drill. As long as it's conceptual to your user of, I have to follow the security because IT told me I have to do it, they're not really going to adopt it until it becomes real and they understand, I clicked on this link and now my computer is frozen and I can't use it, and oh, I've impacted 4 other workers next to me. So even if you have to do it in a simulation, and there are various ways to implement that, until they see the reality of what the policies stand for, it's always going to be just conceptual to them.
So lock them out.
Lock them out.
Lock 'em out.
Henry, do you have a question?
Thank you. Hey, I'm Henry Overton. I'm president of Turnkey Solutions. We're a managed security services provider. Recently, our Secretary of State made some rather rough remarks around not using managed services provider. Just a few months ago, managed services providers, and it felt very ominous that somebody at that level of our government would disparage basically my entire industry. And so I'm curious, as my company, we are a standards-based organization. We do everything by policy, procedures, and standards. We follow NIST and HIPAA and PCI and Sarbanes-Oxley and all the others religiously. And we're trying to fill that gap of the lack of contractors and the lack of understanding and education to our client base, to end users. So while we are out there in a lot of ways fighting the good fight and trying to bring the massive array of tools and processes to the businesses and organizations and government agencies that we support, is there a trend from the government to regulate the cybersecurity practices of the SMB and or to regulate the practices of the IT providers and contractors and security providers that are out there doing the work?
So I can speak to that from the consumer point of view, and I mentioned this earlier. Trusted partners that you're doing business with are people that you need to be able to trust in that equation. And maybe the phrase that you were quoting should have been, don't blindly do business with managed service partners.
What's SMB?
Managed service partners, people that are performing an IT function on your behalf or managing some of those functions, and you contract with them to do that. Some smaller entities make the assumption of, if you're in the business to do that, I can trust you and everything's great and I don't have to worry about that and I don't have to do any due diligence to ensure myself and get confidence that you're doing the things you need to do. So for us, it's more about doing that due diligence to ensure that if we're doing business with you as a trusted partner, to quote a former president, trust but verify. Make sure that you're doing what you need to do, and if so, I don't have a challenge with doing business with you.
Anybody else want to tackle it?
I'd be interested to know, it's your industry as a whole that you're concerned about. Do you think that the industry would benefit from some degree of regulatory oversight for standards-based performances? So I don't want to necessarily put a question back on you, but the reality is, if everybody can get into this business and they don't have to satisfy any credentialing, should they be allowed to do that business?
That's a fantastic question, and one that my peers grapple with regularly. I believe that in a free market system, there might be incentive to differentiate oneself by saying I've met a certain standard or regulatory limit, and if I've not, maybe I'm free to serve clients that don't need that level of excellence. Would that be perhaps a standard?
Should there be a good housekeeping seal of approval?
Definitely.
And who should determine that?
NIST? I don't know. Great question.
In the government space, we do work with that all the time because a lot of the cloud service providers that we do business with, we look for the federal certifications, and there's a number of federal programs from the IRS to the Department of Defense and everybody else who do the certification of these cloud services. So we piggyback on those certifications when we're going to look for a provider that we're doing business with.
Okay. We have had a wonderful discussion. Thank you all for participating. That's about all the time we have for this question and answer segment. We'd like to thank our panel, Mr. Underwood, Major Dunn, Mr. Andrews, and Mr. Spahn, for their insights on this month's topic. When we come back, we'll have a few closing comments.
So Natasha, what an interesting conversation. I think I'm a little still anxious about my own passwords and protection.
I'm scared to log onto my computer now.
No, but I think it's a topic that we're going to be seeing a lot more, maybe in this legislative session. About, and I think government and private
industry.
Lots
of good information here, though.
Yeah.
We got lots
Thanks
of good information.
Thanks for the conversation.
Tonight.
Thank you all so much for participating in it. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Louisiana Public Square. We encourage you to visit our website at lpb.org/public square. You may view additional interview sound bites and comment on tonight's show by clicking the Join the Conversation tab, and we would love to hear from you.
In January, an East Baton Rouge Parish inmate died by suicide just 2 days after being booked. In 2019, 2 prisoners in Acadia Parish hanged themselves within 6 weeks of each other. How prepared are jails to handle those incarcerated with mental illness? Louisiana Public Square looks to answer those questions in our March episode, Cots or Care? The Mentally Ill in Prison. Thanks for watching and have a good night.
Good night.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org.